Now, I want to look at some scientific research today from South Africa that's been pretty well ignored by the mainstream media, it seems. What this research is showing is that people that have been infected by Omicron are developing immunity which gives them a large-scale protection or a lot of protection against a Delta variant. And that means that as we become infected with Omicron, this is going to give us infection against Delta. And this means that Delta is going to have nowhere to go because everywhere it goes, people will be resistant to Delta. Therefore, Delta should die out. And this Delta variant that's made so many people so sick and has taken so many lives should be history, completely replaced by the Omicron variant. That is the contention. This is the paper it's from. Now, it's all there. And Africa Health Research Institute, School of Laboratory Medical and Medical Sciences and virtually every other reputable sort of sounding institution in South Africa has been involved in this. So it's got a great deal of credibility behind it. Omicron has been shown to be highly transmissible. Yes, fact. That's for sure. Omicron has extensive evasion of neutralising antibody immunity, say antibody immunity generated by Delta. That is true. So Omicron has extensive evasion of neutralising antibody immunity elicited by vaccination and previous SARS coronavirus 2 infection. This is why so many people are currently getting symptomatic Omicron infection. Omicron infections are rapidly expanding worldwide, often in the face of high levels of Delta infections. Do Omicron antibodies neutralise Delta virus variant? Does it work the other way around? You see, we know that if you've got Delta antibodies, that's not going to effectively neutralise Omicron. This is the question. Do Omicron antibodies neutralise Delta virus variant? That is the question. And the answer to this does seem to be yes. Does neutralising immunity elicited by Omicron also enhance neutralising immunity against the Delta variant? Just rephrasing the question, really. Quite impressive science on this paper, really. They've isolated the Omicron virus and the Delta virus, and they tested these against the plasma of 15 confirmed Omicron cases. So these would be people who were developing or had developed antibody immunity to Omicron. Their assessment used live viruses, and the cells were propagated in a complete growth medium. So they had a growth medium with everything that these cells need. And then they calculated the focus reduction neutralization test. The focus reduction neutralization test when 50% of the viruses are neutralized. This is an internationally standard way to analyze how effective an antibody is against a particular type of virus. So volunteers, some have been previously vaccinated, some were unvaccinated individuals who were previously infected with SARS coronavirus 2 in the Omicron infection wave. Then these people would have antibodies to the Omicron. That is the key thing, because we want to know if the Omicron antibodies are going to protect us against Delta infection. Now, they're recruited soon after symptom onset. Now, the thing is, soon after symptom onset, they would not have generated a significant antibody response. But then what they did was they tested them just after onset of symptoms, because they recruited them at an early stage. Then they tested them 14 days after the onset of symptoms, when the bodies had time to make the antibodies, so they could compare them before they made antibodies and after they made antibodies. The researchers say we then measured their ability to neutralise both Omicron and Delta virus at enrolment, in other words, when they just developed the infection, versus a medium of 14 days after enrolment when they'd had time to make the antibodies. So this was before they'd had time to mount an antibody Omicron response. This is after they'd had time to mount an antibody Omicron response. Neutralisation of Omicron increased 14-fold over this time. Wow, impressive. So what they concluded from this was showing a developed antibody response to Omicron, which you would expect. They also developed enhanced immunity to the Delta virus neutralisation 4.5 times. So after 2 weeks of infection with Omicron, they were 14 times more resistant to Omicron, but 4.5 times more resistant to Delta, meaning that people would be unlikely to become infected with Delta after they have been infected with Omicron. And that's got remarkably profound implications, because it means the Omicron is protecting against the Delta. Therefore, the increase in Delta variant neutralisation in individuals infected with Omicron may result in a decreased ability of Delta to reinfect. So if you've had the Delta, you're not protected against the Omicron. But if you've had the Omicron, then you are protected against subsequent Delta infection. This is remarkably good news. Also, emerging data indicates that Omicron is less pathogenic than Delta, so which would you prefer to have? Therefore, cross-immunity from Omicron to Delta may have positive implications in terms of decreasing the COVID burden of severe disease. Cross-immunity, so the Omicron is giving us cross-immunity to help us protect against the Delta. Therefore, we're probably going to get rid of Delta and it's probably going to be completely taken over by Omicron. Because the Delta will have nowhere to go, because anyone it happens to float into, anyone who is exposed to Delta, pretty soon will have been exposed to Omicron, have immunity to Omicron, therefore have cross-immunity that will also protect them against Delta. It really couldn't be any better than this.